Hi, it's John. This is part 3. In case you are visually impaired and you are not able to read the description under the first video in this series, so under part 1, I'll just give you a brief audio version of it. Basically, the most important part of the description, there's a lot of stuff in there, but the most important part is that this is an all non-profit pursuit of justice, okay? All of the videos in this series, this entire YouTube channel, it's a non-profit pursuit of justice, okay? And also my website is all non-profit, and that website is ifplanehitshouse.org. That's ifplanehitshouse.org. And the reason it's called that is because obviously a possible future scenario is the plane may hit my house, and if it does, we'll know it's not an accident, right? We'll know who's behind it, and basically there's a lot of good stuff on that site that is not here. There's information there that's not here. There's also some pictures there, and then also some audio, a lot of audio there that is not here. Some audio may appear here also in somewhere in this series, but basically most of the audio will be there, and there's already some audio there, including audio of some important phone calls that I made to authorities, and even and recorded obviously in a call I recorded between my brother and myself. Now he does not admit his guilt in that phone call. However, if you read between the lines, you'll get shivers. Okay, I think that some of the stuff he says, if you read between the lines, it'll give you shivers, and that's all I'll say about that. Here now, getting back to the so-called coincidences. This next one basically ties the two MAX jets to the 737 that crashed on March 21st of last year, 2022, because this is 2023 now. Okay, now this is a video from GMA, from a news story done by ABC. Now this one here, basically some company in China had their camera trained on this area, for surveillance or observation purposes. I guess they normally do that, and then it just so happened that on March 21st, when that plane crashed, it came into the view of their camera, and there it is, circled. Okay, that's that plane that crashed on March 21st. Okay, it went into a steep nosedive. Okay, as you can see, right, almost vertical, a very steep nosedive. That's that's how it crashed, by going into a sudden steep nosedive. Well, the two MAX jets also crashed like that, by going into sudden steep nosedives. Okay, so basically they all crashed in the same method. I believe my brother used that method for all three of them, to give me a sign that he was behind all three of them. Okay, so there's that so-called coincidence that I don't believe is a coincidence. All right, now more so-called coincidences. The numbers coming up again. Remember, I explained in part 1 and or part 2 about the 1029, about the significance of the 1029 and why that was significant. Okay, I'm sure you remember. If you don't, you can watch it again. I'm not going to waste time here explaining it all. Got to keep this under 15 minutes. So again, the 1029 was significant then, and half of that number comes up again here, 29. Okay, 29 comes up again. Now this is also from that ABC News story. Okay, basically done a year after that crash, and they did it, and they, based on the information they recovered from one of the black boxes of that crash, they determined from that the altitude and the speed that the plane was traveling, because one of those black boxes records on all flights. One of the black boxes records all that information, right? Altitude, speed, that type of stuff, right? Instrumentation from the plane. The other one records voice communications in the cockpit, right? Suspicious that has not been released, but I'll get into that into some future video, like, I don't know, maybe part 10, 20, 30, whatever. I got so much other stuff I want to cover. For this one, I'll keep dealing with these planes, the MAXs, and this one, that the crash on March 21st. But then also, and then in the next video, I'll probably deal with that a little bit. In fact, I will definitely go into the deeper significance of the number 8, which I'm going to briefly mention momentarily here soon too also. But then after that, I'll be dealing with other crashes before I return to these, like maybe in part 20 or 30, because there's even more stuff to say about these. But I want to get out as much broad crashes as possible, information about broad crashes. I mean, a broad spectrum of crashes, right? First, before I get too deeply into any of them, mind you, I'm still going pretty deep into these, even in these few videos. Now, so again, this is based on that information that they acquired from that black box. They determined that the plane started diving at 29,000 feet. This is a computer animation or a recreation of how it looked, or when it started diving. I mean, not how it looked, but when it started diving, right? So The actual dive was probably more steep, but eventually it was. But this is when it started diving. Not the ultimate dive, but the ultimate angle of which they couldn't recover toward the end. But this was like the first dive or the first steep descent, right? Started at 29,000 feet. So again, the number 29,000 is significant. Again, the zeros don't count to numerology enthusiasts like my brothers. The zeros don't count. So again, it's a 29. So another 29 coming up, significant for the same reasons I explained the significance of the 1029 in the previous couple of videos, right? So again, so there's that, all right, and then another significant number coming up is 8,000 feet. Okay, now so basically it leveled off at 8,000 feet for a few moments before, like maybe for a minute or a couple of miles or whatever, but it did definitely level off at 8,000 feet, right? And before starting its final plummet, right? Now, I believe that my brother chose 29,000 feet to start the initial rapid descent, and then he leveled it off at 8,000 feet. I believe that he picked both of those numbers very precisely to give me yet another sign that he was behind it, because again, those are all significant numbers, for reasons I explained before about the 29. So he would know that he would know that I would notice that when I heard about it on the media, right? And then as far as the 8, that is even more significant. I'm definitely going to go into the deeper significance of 8 in the next video, and I'm only going to relate it to the max 8s though, just to save time. But basically, you'll know that it applies to this one as well, right? It applies because of 8,000 feet, right? It's actually an 8, right? So that's significant, right? 8 is significant. Another so-called coincidence I don't believe is a coincidence, and again, 8 is a very significant number to my brother. I'll explain in the next videos. But for now, I'll just say to you that remember that the altitude was 8,000 feet, right? When it leveled off and then started its final descent. Okay, so basically the 8 came up. Okay, so just remember that the 8 came up. So that is significant, right? It is, because 8 is a significant number to him, and these even more so-called number coincidences regarding the number 8 that I'm going to show you before I go deeper into the significance of the 8 in the next video. In this video, I'm going to show you more examples of 8 coming up. Okay. The name, okay, just the name, all right. The max jets. The full name is an 8. Most media organizations don't tell you that, but some do. Okay, the full name of the max jets that crashed in 2018 and 2019, the full name of those max jets was an 8. Okay, this media site, Axis.com, they gave the full name. Most don't, but some do. They did. So there's the full address bar thing. If you want, to look it up yourself, and there are a few others that also give you the full name. You can definitely find out that the full name, as it says here, is the Boeing 737 MAX 8. Okay, so again, the number 8 comes up yet again. Okay, stands out by itself to give it extra importance or prominence, right? So again, there's the 8, right? It's an important part of the name of the plane. Now, these even more, and yet another 8 coming up. Okay, and I'm going to show you in 1 second. Okay, now here it is. Okay, so the plane that crashed on March 21st, right, last year, right, the one that video showed the steep dive, right, because there was no video for the max ones, right, but we can imagine that they looked similar toward as they approached the ground, that they were at a similar steep angle. They definitely all went into steep dives, right? But anyway, the video was from the March 21st one, and so getting back to the March 21st one, as it says here, March 21st, that crash from last year, China East Airlines, March 21st, last year, 2022. Another thing about that one is also an 8, okay? Even though it was not a MAX 8, it still has an 8 prominent in its name, because look, the full name is the Boeing 737 dash or hyphen 800, okay? So there's a hyphen between the 737 part of the name and the 800. Again, the zeros don't count for the reasons I explained before, okay? So it's an 8. So again, it's a standalone 8, right? Because there's a hyphen. There's a hyphen there between the 737 and the 800 part, right? And again, the zeros don't count. So there's an 8. So it's a standalone 8 because it's separated from the rest of the numbers by the hyphen, okay? So that gives it extra importance, which I'm sure my brother noticed that that in the name it has extra importance. And so then because 8 is so important to him for reasons I'll explain in the next video, part 4, because of that, I believe is a large reason he picked these planes to crash, okay? I believe that is one of the large reasons he picked these planes to crash, the 2 MAX 8s and this one, that crashed on March 21st. That's one large reason he picked. And of course, for the MAX jets, he also picked because of the name MAX and the other coincidences I mentioned in the first couple of videos. Now more coincidences just about this one, that crashed on March 21st, okay? Even more coincidences. Remember, it was March 21st that it crashed, right? So 321. 321 on the calendar, right? If you write it in numbers, it's 321. Now look at the hotel I stayed at. Look at the hotel room number I stayed at, 321. okay? Now, I stayed in this room a lot longer than this receipt indicates, okay? By the way, my name is blocked out there. Address information is blocked out there for the hotel. That's because of YouTube posting policies. They're very complicated and strict. I go more deeply into that in the description below, deep in the description below the first video in the series, below part 1. If you read the description, I go deeply into reasons why I don't say my last name. Again, it's because of YouTube policies, and they're very complicated, so I go more into it there. You can read about it there. But the point is, if anybody wants to see the full receipt with the address and the name of the hotel and my name, you can send me an email. My email address is in one of the future videos in this series. You'll see it eventually, whichever, whether it's part 10, 20, whatever. Eventually you'll get to it. You'll get my email address. You can send me an email for any reason, including if you want to see unblocked. I'll take the tape off. I'll unblock all the information. If you want to see all the information on this receipt, just send me an email. I'll send you a screenshot of all the information. Then you can call the hotel. You can ask them when I stayed there. Screen timing out there. Got to touch it. Okay, you'll see that I stayed there until the end of January, and that I stayed there for one day at first in November 2021. I wanted to test out the room, see if it was quiet. I like quiet rooms. Okay, I'm talking fast. I got to keep this under 15 minutes. Okay, so basically I tried it out for one day. I liked it. It was a good room. So then I stayed for 30 days. Okay, and then I went away for a few days, and then I came back at the end of December, and then I stayed for another 30 days till the end of January in room 321. So I stayed in room 321 for a total of 61 days. That's the longest I ever stayed in any hotel room in my life. Okay, 321. All right. So I checked out of there at the end of January of 2022. The year 2022 is when I checked out at the end of January out of room 321. And then again, remember, just a couple of months later in March of the same year, 2022, the plane crashed on 321, okay? The exact same number as my hotel room. I'm sure my brother knew that that I would notice that, okay? And I'm sure that my brother knew which room I was in by spying on the GPS on my cell phone. Then he would know the general area. Then he could hack the Wi-Fi to find out exactly which room I was in. Or he could hack the computer, the hotel computer database to find out which room I'm in. Very easy for him to do. He's hacked all kinds. I have a lot of strong circumstantial evidence that he has hacked government and corporate databases years ago. So to hack a hotel database is no big deal, I'm sure, for him. Okay, now, so there's another so-called coincidence, right? And then more so-called coincidences. Regarding the flight number, I'm going to get to that in a moment. But first, I want to show you this. Okay, this is a power bill. Okay, this is a power bill, right? From where I lived. And I lived here for since 2018. If I'm traveling, obviously I'm not there, but my electricity is always active. So basically, it's still my place whether I'm there or not, and the address is the same. The M, it doesn't matter, what name it is, whether that's a street, avenue, boulevard, whatever, that's the first letter. It doesn't matter for the rest of it. Obviously, I'm blocking it out, just like my last name there, for the reasons explained before. Now 305, okay, the zeros don't count, right? Okay, so again, basically the zeros don't count, like I explained before. So and that's the only number in my address there. Okay, it's blurry again. This camera has autofocus, and sometimes I don't know how to control it. It's on auto. Eventually it'll clear up by itself, but sometimes when you hold it too close, it gets blurry. So there, it's clear again. So again, the zeros don't count. Okay, the zeros do not count. So that is that number is the only number in my address. Okay, that's an M beside it, right? A letter, right? And there are other letters, it doesn't matter, right? But the point is the only number in the address is that number right there that you see, 305, okay? Well, the zero doesn't count, like I explained. So basically that becomes a 35. So just remember 35, okay? Remember the 35. 35. Just remember 35, okay? Remember the 35. Do not forget the 35. Now I'm going to show you another number to remember. Okay, show me a birth certificate, okay? So basically I was born in Manitoba, Canada, okay? And it was on May 12th, 1970 in Winnipeg, okay? Now remember Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada for future reference, because it comes up in other suspicious crashes also, because again, these numbers are also significant to my brother, obviously, because he knows my birthday, right? So just remember Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, okay? And remember May 12 or 5/12/1970. Remember that for future crashes also. But just remember the 70 for now for this one, okay? 70 short in 1970 for short is just a 70, right? Again, the zeros don't count, okay? So it's a 7, right? Okay, and the May is a 5. I showed you that. Remember what I said before about the 35, about the 35 for the address, okay? Okay, so the 35. There's the 35, okay? And there's the 7 and the 5, okay? The May 5 is for the 7. Sorry, 5 is for the month of May, okay? In the flight number, 5 is for the month of May, 7 is for 70, 35 is for my address without the 0, MU is for murder, okay? So I believe my brothers have very carefully selected that plane for all those reasons, including the ones I mentioned before, all those so-called coincidences. I don't believe they're coincidences. Thank you.